Can it happen again? Yeah, it can happen again. For anybody to say that it couldn't, I think they would be willfully blinding themselves to the tragedy of that day. I had a lot of different emotions during the day. The first one was I had told my staff to stay home. I didn't know what would happen, but I was worried enough about what might happen that I told my staff to stay home. And normally, my staff, that's kind of a cool day, especially, if, I'm a Democrat. I was glad Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were being elected. So it's kind of a good day to be around. But I said to my staff, don't come into work. One of my staff members disobeyed me, my chief of staff, Mike Henry. He said, I hear you, but I'm coming in anyway. When they barricaded us into the Capitol and told us that we were under attack, and they had to stop the counting of the electoral votes, my first thought was, I'm so glad I told my staff to stay home. As you know, because you work up here, an awful lot of Senate staffers are young, altruistic people. Maybe it's their first job out of college. They want to be public servants long term. They might want to run for office one day. The job of a senator is being around a lot of young, altruistic people, and hopefully, if we do our jobs right, we're equipping them with skills as they're helping us, but we're also not seeing their altruism diminish, but their altruism increase. And I just sort of had this feeling, if my staff were here, they would be physically at risk, but they also might walk away from this day less committed to public service. So that was a thought that I had that was a very powerful thought. I was extremely angry, very angry. I was confused. I wasn't particularly afraid, but I was extremely angry. And I've been angry before in my life, but this was at a completely different level. It took me months to figure out why I was so angry. And I eventually did figure it out. I was angry because, I'll be blunt. I'm a white male born in 1958. Nobody had ever tried to disenfranchise me before. I was a civil rights lawyer. I've been passionate about voting rights, trying to help other, minorities and others who have been disenfranchised, not just briefly, but often over the course of American history. There have been efforts to disenfranchise others, but there's never been, in my lifetime, an effort to disenfranchise Tim Kaine or people like Tim Kaine. But in that attack, as I realized what was going on, it was an effort to overturn the will of the 80 million Americans who had voted for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I had just a glimpse for 4 hours until the crisis had passed. For 4 hours, I had a glimpse, personally, of what it felt like to be disenfranchised. By the next day, I walked to the office. The sun was up. The crisis had passed. I was in no danger of being disenfranchised again. But it made me realize during those 4 hours how awful that feeling is. The knowledge that people are trying to take away your vote, and even willing to use violence to do it, as has been the case often throughout our history. Violence has been used to stop African Americans and others from voting. That 4 hour experience connected me to the experience of people who've experienced disenfranchisement during their lives, and in some instances over the course of centuries. And that was what made me so angry. Instead of voting rights becoming like a passion that I wanted to battle for others, I felt like I got just a very brief window into how debilitating and discouraging and devastating it is to have your vote threatened or taken away. And so that anger, that persists today. And I really do feel like the only productive way to deal with that is to pass comprehensive legislation to make sure that we protect every single person's ability to vote, safeguard it from the kinds of attacks that we saw, safeguard the system from the kinds of attacks that we saw. A lot of other emotions as well, but those emotions of relief that my staff was not there and anger that took me months to kind of unpack and understand, those are two very vivid memories today.